Greetings, brothers and sisters. So, bunch of stuff to get to today, but let's start here. Biden aides find second batch of classified documents at new location. On Monday, the White House acknowledged a small number of classified documents have been found in an office Biden used. So this is going to be about hypocrisy, and mostly about Democratic hypocrisy, but the Republican hypocrisy is there as well. It's just that the Democrats and the liberal media have more power because of owning social media and all of it, right? And they're being backed now by the powers that be. But there's lots of right-wing Trump supporters, and I'm just going to cover this part briefly because it's mostly going to be about the Democrats, that didn't think Trump, they brought up Hillary Clinton, or they didn't think it was a big deal with Trump and Mar-a-Lago documents, right? And but now that Biden's done it, it's a big deal. And it's just, how bad everything sucks, how subjective people are. And I've talked about this so much. If you're against the behavior in all forms. And so I haven't watched it yet. I looked through MSNBC and CNN to see what videos they put up on YouTube about this, right? And I haven't watched them. So let's see what they say. There was only one out of a sea of videos on MSNBC. And CNN, there was one that was put up 4 hours ago. They're covering a little bit more on CNN. But let's see how they're dealing with this obvious hypocrisy of how, they demanded Trump go to jail for doing something Biden had been doing before Trump was president. Biden had classified documents before Trump was president, right? So, his thing is much worse in terms of that and the fact that he withheld this information before an election. So the hypocrisy is, off the charts.
The hypocrisy is off the charts, and it is sickening.
There's an update late today to a story NBC has been covering all week. After fewer than 1 dozen documents with classified markings were found at an office used by now President Joe Biden in the days following his vice presidency, an exhaustive search was undertaken, and it has turned up more. NBC News is reporting this, quote, aides discovered at least one additional batch of classified documents in a location separate from the Washington office.
Okay, so this is really bad and as bad as Trump, right?
Biden used after leaving the Obama administration. That's according to a person familiar with the matter. The classification level, the number and precise location of the additional documents is, at the moment, not immediately clear. Let's bring in
They don't know where they are?
NBC News correspondent Carol Lee on this exclusive reporting of hers. Charlie Sykes and Eddie Glad are back with us. Carol, tell us what you are reporting.
Well, Nicole, look, one of the questions, many questions that we've had since these revelations of this initial batch of documents at the president's Washington, D.C. office came to light is, were there other documents? And what we
now we know there are.
Know from our own reporting is that that the president's aides have discovered additional documents in a location that's different from that office that he set up after he left.
Well, that's not good. So he's got them spread out all over the place, right?
The vice presidency here in Washington. And now there's a number of locations where the president, has lived and worked and conducted business. He has 2 houses in Delaware. There was a time when
2 houses he has. Where do you get the money for those houses? They don't make all that much money in the Senate. Where do you get the money to have 2 houses?
Documents were in storage after he left the vice presidency. And so what we also know is that aides to the president have been going through documents, boxes of materials, things from his time as vice president to get a sense of what else might be out there.
So he's got documents all over the place. He doesn't even know where all his documents are.
And what the scope
it's
of
like it's like Hunter Biden and his bastard children. They could be sprinkled all over several states and locations.
Problem could be, with presumably the goal of what they did with the initial documents that they found, which is turn them over to the National Archives, and then
but they have to find them first.
Obviously, the Justice Department would add those to the documents that they've been reviewing. So We know now that there is more than one batch of classified documents that's out there in multiple locations, and that there has been this effort to try to get their arms around what the scope of this problem might be.
And Carol, your
The
report
scope.
makes clear that the reason we know this is from Biden's team doing this search for them.
Because they're so forthright. So this is where she's contrasting. So they've done this story, and this school right here is now saying, this former Republican, the difference is that Biden's teams disclosed this honestly. They're so honest and transparent.
What does that search look like? What stage of that search are they in? And at this point, it's also clear from your excellent reporting that they are the ones delivering the documents to the National Archives and DOJ. That there's
Exactly. And Trump had to be, they had to storm Mar-a-Lago with machine guns and troops and, to get the classified from Trump. But Biden just is turning him over. He can't find him. But when he finds him, he's going to turn him over. See how much better he is? I'm glad that Marcia Wallace is on the case. She's so objective.
There's no obstruction. There's no concern at the National Archives. The
Exactly. No Trump stuff.
parallels to the Trump and criminal investigation
No criminal stuff.
end with the existence of the
No crackhead son that's been selling anything he can to support his crack habit. Like, he doesn't have any of them. They're not on Hunter Biden's laptop or anything like that, at least as far as we know about. I mean, there's nothing like that.
classified materials themselves, based on what we know now.
Yeah, based on what we know, Nicole, this
Based
is
on what we know, it's so much better than what Trump did.
not a situation where the president and his lawyers are having a back and forth and arguments, and there's resistance in terms of turning things over. The White House has said, the president himself has said that him and his team are fully cooperating with this review, and that they want
Exactly. He's held on to these things for so long. With his big excuses, he did know he had them. He didn't know he had classified documents until now. So that was the whole Trump administration. In 2 years of his, it's been 6 years, right? Since now 7. 6 or 7 years he's had these documents. And so what, right? Like, didn't even know he had them. And that's a huge, I didn't know I had them. See, I'm innocent. Well, then you're stupid then. You're incompetent. You took things you didn't know you had them, and you kept them, and now you're turning them over 7 years that late when they're trying to prosecute the last guy, and you're the sitting president. It's always worse when you're the sitting president. And you withheld the information you found out before the midterms, and you didn't say anything, which is, a follow-up to what happened when the Hunter Biden story was suppressed. And so, this is in many ways worse than what Trump did. Trump, they had to go get him out of Trump's, whatever happened with that. But there's a negotiation with Trump, and they treated Trump differently. And I'm not a Trump person. Trump, I've talked about the warp speed thing. But, the way that they're handling this thing, it's just ridiculous, right?
to essentially try to move past this. The president said that he hopes that this is something that would be over sooner rather than later. And so what our understanding of the dynamic is now is that they found these documents. There's still this open question, though, of why the president's lawyers were closing out this office in Washington, D.C. That just seems like something that you would have a lower level staffer do. But nonetheless,
boom. Well, his lawyers, there it is. She dropped a little truth in there.
White House says the president's lawyers found these documents while clearing out his office in Washington, turned them.
So the lawyers were in there moving S out of his office, right? Moving boop out of his office. They didn't hire lower level staffers and interns to take things. His lawyers were moving it out. They need lawyers to do, We were moving everything out of his office. We had his top legal team in there to do the moving, because that's what lawyers do.
Them over. What we know now is that that's not the only group of documents that the president's team has discovered. And so they're also trying to figure out what else is out there. We don't know whether that search is ongoing and continues when it began, but presumably once they figured this out, that made this initial discovery on November 2nd, there would have been discussions about whether there were things elsewhere where the president might have kept some documents, and then an effort to try to figure out if there's anything else out there.
Exactly. You could have documents everywhere.
So, Charlie, on
Does Hunter have any of them?
Earth One, Carol's reporting is meticulous and careful. The Biden lawyers are trying to get their arms around this, return these documents to their rightful owner. The White House even acknowledges that it understands. I spoke to a senior official yesterday who said, of course, this is a story, but the parallels do end after the existence of classified documents. There's no obstruction of justice underway.
Yeah, they're not. It's nothing like what Trump did. Like just 4 hours into this, right? Or whatever. This is breaking news. And so he had some classified documents, and then immediately they're like, oh, there's no obstruction of justice. Well, again, he kept them for a longer period of time. And why did he have them, right? And, why didn't they know when they were, trying to, bring Trump to jail? Why did they treated Trump differently? Like, no former president who has had classified documents had their place stormed. And who knows why that was all, whatever that was, right? Trump's, does his own stuff, and maybe he was being a dick. Trump is like that. But, he was treated differently. And so the length of time, but now you have a second problem where there's new documents discovered. Now they're saying who knows how many documents are out there. And before they've even processed this story, they're trying to, destroy the parallels between what Trump did and Biden did. And the one thing that you can say that Trump didn't do was withhold the information before an election. And he would have done that, but he didn't. And change the outcome of the election. That's what Biden did, right?
There's no refusal to turn things over. But on Earth 2, none of that matters, right?
Well, that is right. And people need to try to hold these two ideas in your head at the same time. Number one, that these are very, very different cases. There are a lot of distinctions between the Biden.
He had them for a longer period of time, though. There's some things that are worse. Admit that there's some things that are worse. Because him not knowing he had them, that's bad. And he had them for a longer period of time. And his crackhead son is a player in all this. Like, he could have sold things like this. And he would. Right? So, this is worse in some ways of looking at it.
Documents and the obstruction of justice that Donald Trump engaged in, but also.
Okay, so, we know how they handled it. Let's go to CNN.
Well, today we're learning that President Biden's legal team found another batch of classified documents.
Again, his lawyers are the one who are finding them.
It's a source saying these documents came in searches that began after the November discovery of the classified docs from now President Biden's time as vice president in an old office in Washington, D.C. So the question really is, what does this mean for the president? How are we just now learning about this? And also the DOJ going forward. Joining me now, CNN special correspondent Jamie Gangel, CNN senior law enforcement analyst Andrew McCabe, and CNN legal analyst Elliot Williams. I'm glad you're all here, and I bet we have similar questions as to who, what, when, where. The question of who knew what, when, why. But I want to begin with you, Jamie, because
the answer is we don't know.
Well, there we go. That ends the segment today. Thank you for watching CNN. No, but seriously, I'm trying to wrap my mind around some of the reporting that's come in over the last 24 hours, even in a statement in Mexico City. And there were, 40 boxes that were handed over, and an abundance of caution from the first batch we learned about.
Right. Abundance of caution.
It doesn't necessarily add up about the 10 classified docs or not, whatever level they were. But are these new batch, is this from a different location, or is that part of those 40 boxes that was handed over?
A different location.
She's got such a lawyer face. Like, she could, if she was in a TV show, she'd play definitely a lawyer. And a not nice one.
And let's just call it an undisclosed location at the moment. The first location was...
It's undisclosed. Is it Area 51?
His office, part of the Biden Penn Center, that had been sitting there for several years. These boxes were locked up. My understanding is 99% of what was in that office was personal. It included things like the burial arrangement documents for Beau Biden's funeral.
Oh my God, so sad. Remember Beau Biden, his son died. It's so sad. Remember how a good man this Biden guy is? It's so sad that his son lost his son. Why are you guys harassing him about these documents when, most of this stuff, 99% of it was just personal stuff.
Boxes of condolence letters that had been sent to him.
No way. Just, oh my God. So touching.
As vice president. And that's why his personal lawyer was going through it, because
Exactly. His personal lawyer was going through it because it was personal. Everyone has a personal lawyer that you let go through your things. Like, the guy Cohn for Trump. Trump let him go through his personal stuff and pay off hookers and prostitutes because that's what a personal lawyer does.
They thought it was all personal and confidential. And then that lawyer gets to a box, he opens it up. There's a folder marked VP Personal, not unimportant. He opens that up, it says classified, he closes it again, and he calls the White House counsel. He says,
exactly, that's exactly what happened. He closed. He didn't read it. He's a lawyer. He knows not to read things like that. Like, he didn't want to know what was in it. Someone sees classified in it, and their first reaction is, "Oh, I don't want to know what that says."
Houston, we have a problem. They say call the National Archives. In that first batch, there were about 4 boxes.
Yeah, that's not exactly what happened, though. Is her name Jamie? Like, they discovered this on November 2nd, and they didn't release this story until, I don't know, 2023, January. Now, it's a new story. So they went through all of November and all of December. Now it's coming out. Plus, it was right for the election. So they weren't transparent like you're saying, right? So, and now they're looking for more documents, or did they delay the second part of the story? So they gave you the first part, was there's a few documents, less than a dozen, in his office, and they just happened to find them. They didn't know they were there. And now they're saying, but then we waited 2 months and we started a search, and we're now finding documents all over the place. The story doesn't hold weight, but you guys aren't reporters and journalists. So
boxes that they found that seemed to be different from all the other 36 personal boxes, and those had both those 10 classified documents and then other documents that were unclassified but fall under the Presidential Records Act. Sorry for the long explanation.
No, it's exactly what we need to hear, because it sounds like
you took the story they gave you. You're not asking them questions about, oh, why'd you have them so long? How come you didn't know about them? Why didn't you release them before the election? And why didn't you immediately start searching for other classified documents after November? Or did you withhold that story? I mean, these are all questions that a journalist would ask, right?
one, there's different locations, Andrew, and where things are, but also an abundance of caution to then just say, here you go, here's the whole kit and caboodle. Right. Of course, the issue, and there are many issues here, are people giving President Biden a pass on the idea of, look, this happens. This is not the response people had for the former President Donald Trump. Of course, the big distinction here is how one behaved once they were aware of it.
Exactly. Donald Trump was a scoundrel.
Is that a distinction that you think should be highlighted more?
It's a very significant distinction. And
you got to talk about that distinction. Let's just talk about the distinction of why JoJo Magoo is so much better than Trump.
Particularly in the context of the investigation that will follow. So is he getting a pass? No, I don't believe he's going to get a pass. He's going to be investigated, and I would opine likely by a special counsel.
There's already been a U.S. attorney out of Illinois, a Trump holdover appointee, who has given a report.
That's right. And at this point, I think the Attorney General would be well advised to appoint a special counsel over this investigation of how President Biden and his team handled these documents. That's a separate issue. But I think the distinctions between how he and his team have handled this and how President Trump and his lawyers handled the situation in Mar-a-Lago could not be more distinct, right?
And so who did it better? Who did it better?
It's night and day. It's an overabundance of caution, contacting the archives immediately, having them come out the next day to recover all of the documents. There's no parsing of, well, you can look in this room.
Yeah, okay, but then why is it not a story? If they came over November 3rd and the election was like November 7th or something, I mean, why did they wait till that day? Like, when did they actually discover him? They were clearing out his office the week of the midterms. Is that what you're saying? Again, this is not transparent. You look at the difference here. At least 10 documents, at least 325 total documents. Some top secret, 60 top secret. Cooperating, under investigation for obstruction. Lawyers found and alerted. National Archives first reached out to Trump lawyers. This isn't your job. Your job isn't to immediately compare him to Trump, like as a journalist. Your job is to tell the story of JoJo Magoo and not to make excuses and tell some sentimental story involving the death of his son. I mean, trying to spin it. Your job as a journalist is to cover this story and why he's a complete F up. JoJo Magoo is a complete boop up, right? He got caught plagiarizing, like this other story that's out there. This other guy, the Republican guy, whatever his name is, right? JoJo Magoo got caught lying and plagiarizing like that guy did. I mean, he's, everything that they're saying other people did, JoJo Magoo has done in his career. He's a clown. He's a screw up. He's constantly doing stupid stuff, right? Or that's a cover for the fact that these documents were given to his son who sold them to foreign governments. Like, who knows? Because you guys didn't cover that story either, right? Again, this shows you just how biased and ridiculous the news is. All right, let's move on to the next thing here. This is Velma, and this is HBO Max, and they're coming together to make a new cartoon series about the Scooby-Doo gang, but now it's called Velma. They don't need a crazy dog to make cartoons that would attract young people to watch them. Scooby-Doo being the sort of the central figure, like Mickey Mouse and Donald Duck and Daffy Duck and Bugs Bunny. Now they just need Velma because she can carry a show all by herself. What do you got, HBO Max?
This is my story told my way. Daisies!
This is her story told her way. It's about time that we hear her story, that we hear a story coming from the female feminist perspective. I've been waiting for this forever. It's about time we have this, right? A female, strong female protagonist, feminist character telling the story her way, her story, her way. I mean, this is a breakthrough.
Finally share the bone-chilling events that drove me to assemble the greatest team of spooky mystery solvers ever.
Boom. She's got the greatest team. I didn't see Scooby-Doo and Shaggy there. How can you have the greatest crime-solving team without Scooby-Doo and Shaggy?
It's my story told my way.
It's her story told my way.
I have a disease where I can't recognize people who aren't hot.
Is it called rudeness?
I have an illness!
Boom. Fred is narcissistic, only likes girls that are hot or people that are hot. And he's just, he's an essential member of the Velma team.
Hey, Daphne. I need a favor. Why would I do that? We're not friends anymore. We're nemesises. Nemesis. And that's what...
Daphne's stupid.
Why?
What was that going on there?
That's why.
A couple of teenage dudes kissing in the middle of the hallway. This guy's in the missionary position wrapped around him.
Maybe it's one of those doors where you push in a brick and it opens.
Fred, wait!
Don't do it, Fred. You didn't ask Velma's permission. Fred's stupid. Fred and his white privilege. He's just so stupid. Look at Velma work. Velma's getting it done. She knows how to. She's just a modern girl doing all the modern girl. Wait, hey, she broke her mirror. That's 7 bad years. That's 7 years of bad luck, Velma.
Okay, Daphne, I'm the brains of this operation. You're just the look, style, and effortless charm. We do make a good team, don't we?
They do make a good team. Velma's the brains, and Daphne's just the face of the thing. Was Daphne giving? It says "F you" here. They're making this for adults. They're saying "F you" here. Daphne giving the finger over here. What's going on? Velma, it's so edgy. It's so edgy.
We do make a good team, don't we?
She's turned on by Daphne. This is where she discovers that she's attracted to other girls. Because even though Daphne is superficial and popular and stupid and has no real redeeming qualities, kind of like a Kardashian, Velma's still attracted to her. And that's just, that's how Velma rolls.
In this day and age, you can't speculate about someone's sexuality unless they're famous or Peppermint Patty.
Boom. Mindy Keeling is Velma's. She's getting it done. Who else? Constant Wu is Daphne. And Sam Richardson is Norville. And Glenn Howerton is Fred Howerton.
You know what 420 is, right?
Yeah, it's code for adults who still watch cartoons.
Boom. Choose your plan on HBO Max if you haven't already. Because this is an adult cartoon for adult people. And they've taken out Scooby and Shaggy, who were, previously the whole reason to watch the show. They've taken Scooby and Shaggy, made Velma the lead, and she's a feminist with adult level problems, and she's just getting it done her way, her story, and they expect you adults to sign up for HBO Max to watch this wonderful cartoon. Way to go, HBO. This was left up there from 4 or 5 days ago. I missed it. But it's about CNN and Marjorie Taylor Greene and her reaction to, let's just watch.
And Marjorie Taylor Greene, who was excluded from committees while Democrats ran the place on citing her previous remarks about violence and conspiracy theories and anti-Islamic and so forth.
Marjorie Taylor Greene sucks because she's stupid and she's like the right-wing version of AOC, right? She has hurt us all here in the truth community. She's former QB. And she does stupid stuff and, she's still a Trumper, all that stuff, right? Everything you don't want associated with your thing that you do. But their reaction here, she's a conspiracy theorist. And, this is the kind of shill they put out there to give them the narrative and the profile that they want, right?
The comments, she raced down the aisle to take a photo, a selfie with Kevin McCarthy, which may have been his first act as speaker. Adam Kinzinger, former
and
Republican
she held up that phone. And Ron, remember, she held up her phone to, I believe it was Matt Rosendale of Montana. And on the phone, the photographers, our great print photographers that we have here in Washington, captured that image, and it said DT. There it is right there on the phone.
What groundbreaking journalism. DT, it says it right there. Donald J. Trump, DT. And she's got the phone there, and he's bringing it in. He's listening and all this stuff, right? I mean, the whole thing is just turned into such a cloud show, right?
And she's trying to send the message to these holdouts that, Trump is on the line.
But the fact that when it finally broke for McCarthy, she was literally the first one with him taking this photo, immediately posting it on social media, is an indication of what the next 2 years are going to be like. These folks are going to be increasingly the face of the Republican Party. People like Marjorie Taylor Greene, Matt Gaetz, they're going to be at the center of the imagery in many of these investigations that McCarthy agreed to, including one on the weaponization, exact word, of the FBI.
They're reporting on a selfie, right? America's gotten so stupid. It's just so freaking stupid. The news media, and then everything that they're covering, right? She took a selfie. She ran up and took a selfie. It says some, newsworthy event, right? And she's AOC hurts the liberals. AOC, the reason the Fox News and all the right-wing people talk about AOC is because she said stupid stuff, and it riles up their base. And they use Marjorie Taylor Greene the same way, right? She doesn't represent, real people she represents real stupid truthers. but not the, not the more sophisticated understanding of the system, right? And, it's there's no left-right paradigm. She's still a Trumper, right? All the things, QB, all of it. She checks all the boxes. And it's not newsworthy, but they're going to put this out there, and they're going to have her, do stupid things. Like she came into Dr. Dre's still, and then he pulled the plug on that because she used it without his permission. But she made a video, and, I saw that maybe the day after this came out. I didn't watch this till today. But, it's just a joke.
And Justice Department, Green says she wants to investigate whether the Justice Department is being unfair to the January 6th insurrectionists. And now, it is going to greatly facilitate the ability of Democrats to basically say, this is the face of this majority. That's what McCarthy has put in motion. And as I said, there are conservatives who say, fine, this is going to turn out more conservatives and we are going to win. But the fact is that Republicans lost independents in this midterm, the first time since at least 1982 that the party out of power lost independent voters. And one of the reasons they lost them in a midterm was because almost 60% of them said the party was too extreme. In that photo of Green and McCarthy, he is now, you can see how he is enabling more visibility for the very kind of Republicans who have ceded that impression. So it's just an enormous gamble for the party that could make it tougher for them to hold the House.
I'm really touched by the concern that these two liberal Democratic shill reporters for CNN, a liberal shill Democratic shill network, the concern they have for the Republican Party. They just care so much about the Republican Party. They just know what's best for it, and they they really are really concerned about the future of the Republican Party. They're just great that way. Okay, so here's some more stories. Alison Weisselberg, former Trump Organization CFO, sentenced to 5 months in jail. Come on, Weisselberg. You can do better than that. The Forgotten Past with Giants. The world's tallest man, Robert Waldo, in 1936. And he was tall. He was much taller than these little people. He was 8 foot 11 inches tall, almost 9 feet. There were giants at one time, and there are giants now, smaller giants. But, they're less prevalent and not talked about. But it happened. There's evidence of giants all over the world. Whispers of the Brighter World as a reference to there used to be giants here. Now look at the books. There's a giant book that a giant used to read. It's got a map of Italy. The giants like to vacation in Italy. But it happened. Some more. There's look at the bone here. It's a femur, I believe. And, there's some giants they speculated were like 36 feet tall, which would explain a lot. But, even the giants that you see in the NBA and, people over 7 feet, 8 feet tall, Andre the Giant, it's, they want to say it's some genetic issue and not a completely different species of humans. But there have been pictures and evidence of giants, and I've talked about this in so many videos, skulls, and, all of it, that have been suppressed because for some reason they don't want you to know there was once giants here, bigger giants than the ones that still exist. But they've been here, and, they're coming back to take over. It's only a matter of time. This dude had some kind of a wig on his... This dude's wearing a wig. Anyways, that's the giants. Solar flare hat trick. Sun releases another powerful X flare in less than a week. One of my viewers sent a bunch of stuff on Instagram. I've talked about solar flares as being a possibility. An EMP. This is from NASA. Solar cycle 25 is here. NASA NOAA scientists explain what that means. the person who sent this to me had some other stuff basically saying that this was the reason that all the flights were canceled. Because when there's solar flares, there can be an EMP type of situation, and it can wipe out the electrical grid. This was speculated by a guy named Matt Stein in a book called 1,000 Chernobyls, and it's something I've been aware of as a possibility, where solar flares hit, someplace in the world, and a huge part of the electrical grid there is taken down, and it just can't be repaired by, any in any timely fashion. So that's a possible apocalyptic event waiting for everybody, especially if the magnetic field is compromised by the switching of the magnetic poles. The buy now, pay later bubble is about to burst. Many Generation Zers have rejected the traditional credit in favor of a new age layaway program, which are riskier than they seem. I guess that pretty self-explanatory. Stupid and homophobic outrage after Golden Globes host Gerard Carmichael makes extreme off-color joke about Will Smith and Rock Hudson. Where is the joke? He said, "We actually presented Will Smith with Rock Hudson Award for the best portrayal of masculinity on television." I guess he was basically insinuating that Will Smith is a closeted gay man, because that's what, it said here. The comment intended to take a jab at Smith's expense after he infamously slapped Chris Rock at the 94th Academy Awards, better known as the Oscars, in March, but instead invoked fury among Twitter users because although discreet about his sexual orientation, Hudson was at the time of his death in 1985 one of the most famous people to have died from AIDS. His identity as a homosexual man also revealed after his passing. So Gerard is maybe insinuating that Will Smith is also, well, here it is here.
We actually presented Will Smith with the Rock Hudson Award for Best Portrayal of Masculinity on Television. So please give it up for Will Smith, you guys.
So there have been rumors in Hollywood, which, been documented over and over again. I've talked about this here, that he is gay or bisexual or something. So I don't know if this is what this guy is saying, but possibly. Okay, so a few more things to get to on my other browser here. Katie Ochel's State of State escape from New York. I haven't heard this yet, but it's going to be great, I think.
And I'm also proposing the largest investment ever in the state's gun-involved violence elimination initiative, known as GIVE.
GIF. She's the person that took over for Andrew Nips Cuomo. So she wasn't elected, on her own merits. She got the job because she was like his VP of, in terms of being a governor.
It saves lives. It saves lives in the communities hardest hit by gun violence.
Saves lives.
To simply put it, we're working on investing in what we know works. Shootings in Buffalo are down 32%. Mayor Brown, you know this.
Exactly. Buffalo's doing great.
You're working hard. In Long Island, they're down 29%. In Westchester, down 27%. These are all GIVE program jurisdictions. We're putting state money to help our locals on the ground. I've also directed our state police to play a more direct role, as they started last year. But there's more they can do. We're going to increase the ranks of our state police in combating violent crime across communities. We're going to expand the state police community stabilization units to 25 targeted communities across the state.
Boom. So they're getting it done. Early in the State of the State address Tuesday, Governor Kathy Hochul cited widespread fears of crime and sky-high cost of living as threats to New York's future. She said predictions of recession mean we will not be raising income taxes this year. So far, so good. And she followed that with her smartest observation of the day. We're already seeing signs of out immigration that we can no longer ignore. Well, we know people are leaving New York in droves. Heart be still, maybe she finally gets it. But not a chance, not after she spent the next 40 minutes announcing seemingly endless list of big spending, big government programs that would make the state less affordable and less appealing, all while giving Albany bureaucrats, Albany's the capital, vast power to override local zoning and building laws. And so she's, doing more to push people out of New York because New York sucks. Right? It sucks so bad. And, the liberals are even leaving. And they're leaving California as well. Prince Harry said he was bred to offer spare organs to heir William. That's not cool. Why is William taking your organs, Harry? That's not cool at all.
How does your mom feel about your relationship with your brother now?
I think she would be heartbroken that it's ended up where it's ended up. I think she'd be heartbroken about the fact that William, his office, were part of these stories.
Boom. Where's the organ thing? They don't line up the videos good here on the Post. 2 years older than me, Willie was the heir, whereas I was the spare. He was the heir, not the hair. That's the whole basis of the book. I was the shadow, the support, the plan B. I was brought into the world in case something happened to Willie. He said he understood the role was to be a diversion and distraction from his brother. He was like a vice president, or to provide, if necessary, spare part, kidneys perhaps, blood transfusion, speck of bone marrow, he added, in a morose detail. Boy, it's just so sad to be you, bro. Kate Middleton's parent appears stoic after Prince Harry's spare released. Kate Middleton's always stoic. She's like a Stepford wife. Palace staff members sticking to claim they were bullied by Meghan Markles. So I had a bunch of comments to read, a few comments to read. I got a bunch of comments that came in about the royal family and this whole thing. And I just wanted to start off by saying, there's a lot of weirdly strong feelings about the royal family and, my video and all these things. People taking sides and, all of that. But I think what most people should realize, the most important thing is the royal family has to go. All kings and queens, all royalty has to go. But these kings and queens particularly need to go. And, I guess if somebody has a title of a king and a queen and they don't have any, they don't receive public funds and, maybe they have their own wealth or whatever. I don't know about that. I mean, still they have to go, but it's not as important. But this idea that people were born to rule, which I said before, is the most racist and anti-right and the left and pretty much every belief system. You've grown up with this idea of, kings and princes and princesses and princes marrying, finding a girl and her becoming a princess. That's a Meghan Markle story. Like that's the fairy tale. The fairy tale is that a girl is discovered by a prince like, Cinderella, an ordinary girl, and made into a princess and a queen. And through those fairy tales, kingdoms have been glorified. The whole Walt Disney World, is a kingdom. There's a castle there, right? They based all these fairy tales in romanticizing royalty. But royalty sucks. I mean, the real true royalty, the real true people with generational power and wealth is a horror story. It's not a fairy tale. And it represents, this one flaw. I mean, the biggest flaw in the modern day world of looking at things is that you're given a privilege that you don't deserve. You're born into privilege that you don't deserve, which is a big liberal agenda type of thing. But also, it goes against the hardworking aspect of, American life. You don't earn it by merit. You don't earn it because you deserve it, right? I remember Master Charge, the third master of the Sahaj Marg system, the meditation I do. When he came to America, and he said, it's a wonderful system because it rewards for merit. And I never thought about like that before. Because where he came from, and there's a caste system in India, and you go all around the world where nepotism plays a huge part in your, who you're going to be. And you're born in a certain level in most countries around the world, and you have no chance of rising up past your station in life. And that's, pretty sucky compared to what we have here, where you can start off homeless and rise up to be a billionaire. I mean, that's actually happened. And so the royal family represents the opposite of all of that. Born into wealth and privilege based in your genetics, and it should just go, right? And all the parties here, all the people involved, they have a stake in it not going, even Meghan Markles and Harry Markles. And so, they're all into it. They just want to be on the right side of it. They don't want to be the dunces or the scapegoat or any of these things that they've had to do. The screw up, like Harry had to be the screw up to make William look good, right? That's part of his role and his job. But to move forward into a higher developed state of being, royal families have to go, and this one in particular, because of even the Commonwealth now and how much of the world the British royal family ruled. And so here are the comments. Here, I got to find it again. I had it, then I lost it. My God, you are disgusting. Me, I'm disgusting. My God, you are disgusting. You think that the royal family with the UK, we are racist. I'm so glad you do not live in the UK. Look at your country. Well, your country is racist. Your country went into countries all around the globe, India, Africa, with people of color, and you conquered them, and you exploited them in various forms of slavery, and you took their resources. And our country did the same thing. And our country's, our country is, well, anyway, the person says this. Look at your country. First, how many mass shootings, including kids, plus you, give guns to people. It's just a run-on sentence. For somebody who's English, you didn't take English. Right? This is one long run-on sentence. First, how many mass shootings, including kids, you give guns to people, then you go kill people. What are the teacher that was shot? You people really don't care. I've always wanted to go to America. It was my dream. Now, no way would I step on American soil. A long run-on sentence there from a person from England. But everything America learned is from England and other European countries, right? America is a child of European countries. And, the conquered Native American population here that was, a genocide, 100 million of them were displaced and, terminated. I mean, I don't know what the population of Native Americans is now, but it used to be around 100 million. So it was savage. And that was done by England, and, of course, America followed suit. And so, yeah, you can't separate America from England in terms of our philosophy and the way that we go about life. But you did it first, right? England did it first, and, the royal family is a representation of that time, right? A very violent, militaristic, country. And now America is Europe's military, as we can see now with what's going on with the Ukraine, right? The whole NATO thing. There was a meeting, the Bretton Woods meeting, or whatever it was called, Bretton Woods, and they decided that the dollar would be the world's reserve currency because there were so many more people here, and America would be Europe's military. And America agreed to this, and there was a lot of violent movies and violent everything, and, competitive, just having a sense of the killer instinct and competition and glorifying the military here, the same way you glorified the military in England, the way the royal family glorifies the military. And so America became this country where there would be a strong military, and it would defend these European countries and whatever else. So, yeah, you can get off your high horse. And racism is a part of all countries and every people, but the people who are in power, that's true racism. But then another person wrote before that was the first comment, and then this other person wrote here, let's make this bigger here, and it says, I'm from England and I live in the U.S. This is a regular viewer who comments quite a bit. I only go back to visit my family. Otherwise, I never go back. London is very disgusting. Funny that, and she posted this comment first. I grew up feeling depressed and get depressed easily when I go to England. I never go to London. It's not even London anymore. The countryside is beautiful, but there's a cloud of ickiness hanging all over the UK. And that's what I was saying about the spiritual condition there. My experience of being in London and what Babaji said before that. But the disgusting part was interesting in both comments. One person saying I was disgusting, the other person saying London is, and I vote it's London. My vote counts more because it's my channel. But anyways, going back to my original point, there's only one story that matters, and that is that the British royal family is taken down. They disappear. They're no longer royal. This is the end of an era. Like, that needs to happen. It will happen at some point. I don't know how and why, but anything that contributes to that is a good thing. It just has to disappear. It's something that was never good, and it's certainly not good now. And calling yourself a king or a queen or a prince or any of these things, when you're not one, and thinking that's a good thing. King James, LeBron James, and Queen Beyonce, and people calling Britney the queen, and Britney calling herself the queen, all this stuff. It's not a good thing. If you're a hard worker and you earn what you have, that's better than being born into it and being an entitled piece of crap. We already know just people who are born into wealth and privilege. I mean, look at the Kardashians and all these other people. They're worthless and basically useless, right? And so, it's something that has to go. Anyways, only spirituality will save this world. It's Paul Romano, definitely reporting from the Apocalypse and the Ascension. Everyone have a blessed day and be grateful.